Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? So wonderful to see you. Hi, Belinda.
Hi.
Hello, friends familiar, friends new. Um, Wonderful to be with you this Thursday. Um, Truth be told, it's been a rough week, particularly in the last sort of day or two, and I continue to be just struck by how much more work we have in front of us. That there's still that much hate, um, and people don't know how to communicate their pain, their shame, and are resorting to violence. And I guess for me, um, is why I do this work. Um, this is why we're creating spaces to heal because there's such brokenness. And I think it was Krista Tippett on Being. She has a thing called the Civil Conversations Project. And one of the things that she says that I love is that how we talk with one another shapes how we live with one another. And so to me, these gratitude circles are giving the safe space for us to talk with one another, and uh, and how we sort of show up in this space really affect how we show up. And I continue to go back to gratitude, every time, and I just again, why do I love gratitude? It's this social emotion, right? It's this literally evolution has designed this emotion to help us think about our own sort of self-care and our own needs and how do we relate to each other. It's literally the relationship emotion, and that relationship is both how we relate to ourselves and how do we relate to others and how do we create the spaces um, to deal with difficult things, and recognize that our own inner teacher is our best guide, that we can't fix, save, or advise anyone, um, but we can hold space for this sort of showing up in the world. And I'm grateful for each of you for showing up because I know that the invitation is asking something brave of you. It's asking something courageous. Um, but the alternative is that people live in fear and they live in pain, and then it boils up and it boils over, and even more sort of destruction is created. So I just really want to just acknowledge what's going on and acknowledge like what's in my heart. This has been, I held my daughters a little bit closer last night because this is the world that they're going to inherit. And so this space and the spaces that we're creating are not nice to have. These are things that are absolutely critical to planting the seeds that we want to see grow in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Omar. I also feel some heaviness today and just really appreciate the space to show up in whatever shape or form we are in the moment. So, yeah, before as we enter into the circle together, just would love for you all to connect with your heart right now in this moment and just share, how is your heart feeling today?
And I think part of, just as we're sharing these feelings, and I just, I put the word sad in the chat because that's what I'm feeling, but just immediately writing it changed something. And it's just, again, that reminder that we can feel our emotions without becoming our emotions, that we choose through gratitude to trigger our positive emotions so that we don't become triggered by our negative ones. Um, and that these are things that we don't practice gratitude when things are going well. Um, we practice them when they're going well because we know things will become difficult. Uh, and so, how we name and honor and recognize our emotions just as they are, and then just let them go. And so we can continue to just be present. Um, Last week, I'll share one more thing before we get going. Prayer came up as one of the words in the circle, and I brought it to a few other places as I just continue to really understand what that word means. And two things kind of emerged out of a couple of conversations I had. One is just to find another word, right? If the word prayer is charged, because it has so much sort of entanglements to it, find another one. And so the word that somebody else offered to me was just prayer is presence. And so when we're present, that is an act of prayer. And I love that. It's just being present to what is and just honoring what is a prayer. And so that to me is just the intention that I'm really having in today's gratitude circle is just to be super present to just what is, to not make it more, to not make it less, to not hold on and, not to like ignore. And so I appreciate just being able to answer Belinda's, uh, invitation to share what I'm feeling right now. So Belinda, you'll ask us to do a meditation.
Yeah, I just wanted to chat the introduction to those of you that are just arriving. Welcome. So let's take a couple deep breaths together to just get present with all the parts of ourselves that are arriving in this moment. Breathing in energy from Mama Earth, always here to give us some extra strength. And really letting the exhale be a way to let go and purify and release whatever it is that you don't want to hold on to anymore. So breathing in new energy from the earth and letting go with the exhale. One more cycle, breathing in and release. Let's imagine the energy moving up our feet, going all the way up to the top of our heads today. And we're going to start with just checking in with our minds. And if it's helpful, you could even put a hand on your head just to make contact with yourself in this way. Breathing in energy to your mind. And noticing how your mind feels in this moment. Does it feel light? Does it feel heavy? Just being present with whatever sensation you're feeling right now in your mind. Whatever feeling comes to you, just meet it with acceptance. Notice if it feels light or heavy. Notice how it moves today, your mind. Is it moving quickly, slowly? And with each breath, bringing in new energy to your mind. And with each exhale, just purifying that space, the place where your thoughts come and go. Just really embracing where you are right now in this moment with your mind. Breathing in energy to your mind. Releasing with your exhale. Breathing in and release. And just noticing how you feel now in this moment as you're present with your mind. And giving gratitude for any thoughts that come, whether they're positive or negative or neutral. Just embracing and accepting where you are right now. With the next round of breath, we're going to travel down to our hearts. And if it's helpful for you, you could put a gentle hand at your heart, allowing the energy from the earth to flow into your heart, giving it some extra vitality and strength today. And letting your exhale purify and help you release any feelings that you don't want to hold on to right now. And as you breathe, imagine your heart expanding with your inhale and deepening into the moment with your exhale. And as you breathe with your heart, just notice how your heart feels. Could be a different feeling than your mind. Does it feel light or heavy? Are there any emotions that are coming through as you feel into your heart? Meeting every emotion with just acknowledgement and gentleness today. Breathing in and releasing. Breathing in and release. Offering some gratitude in this moment to our gentle, delicate hearts that feel so much. Allowing that gratitude to touch the positive emotions and even the things that don't feel very good right now. Just letting those feelings come and giving gratitude for them, for showing us what is at the core of our hearts today. Breathing in and letting go. Any sadness, pain, grief, suffering that we're feeling right now in our lives or for the collective, let's imagine collecting all of that energy in our hearts and sending it down to the bottom of the earth and letting all of those feelings be held by the earth. And imagining Mother Earth composting all of those feelings, the fear, the anxiety, the sadness, the uncertainty, the pain, just letting all of that go into the earth and trusting that the healing will happen and that, like compost, all of that is going to get transformed into something life-giving and regenerative for the world. So just keep sending that energy down. If there's any remaining feelings that you'd like to let go of today. Breathing in new energy. And a deep exhale to release and let go and surrender. And just remember that this is a safe space for all of us to connect with our inner leader, our inner guide as our teacher. And this is a space for us to receive. So there's no need to fix or save or advise anyone else. We're here to give to ourselves. And also allowing this beauty of silence to be a participant as well. So as you transition from this space to our beautiful circle, hold on to any wisdom or insight that you might want to share today as we go into our gratitude blooming card activity. Maybe there's something from this meditation that you want to connect with our cards for today. So just holding on to that and seeing what wants to emerge as we transition into our circle.
Thank you, Belinda. Appreciate your meditations every week. And I'm excited to see what the gratitude blooming cards reveal today. Would anybody like to be the first person to pull a card? You can put it in the chat. There's 7 rows, 6 columns. You can wave a finger, whatever works for you.
Or you could just tell us to stop anytime at the row that speaks to you.
All right, Martha's saying row 5, column 2. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Ah, look at that.
The last card of the deck. Wow.
Rose, grace. Can you feel the grace that is within you? Can you bring grace to an area of your life? Martha, would you like to share any response that comes up for you with this card? Or if anybody else feels moved? I'm happy to jump in on this one. I think, as you know, I shared in the opening, just feeling the violence in the air. And I love that this is the first card that we pulled. It's just grace. I've learned about grace in 2 ways. One is that grace can't be earned, it can only be received. And so it's not about our merit or our worthiness, but in some ways it's about our humility to accept grace. And the other sort of definition of grace that I appreciate is that it's that which is unadorned and that which is in its original state. And so when we receive grace, what we are sort of receiving is our original intention, our original expression, our original essence. And so I think that the same sort of species that can create violence can also create peace. And to just know that, I guess, it's the rose. The rose has these beautiful petals, but it also has thorns. And those thorns are not actually meant to threaten, they're meant to protect. And so what do we need to, how do we protect beauty? Is in some ways what I feel this rose is saying is it's an invitation to protect that which is beautiful. And we do that through grace. Thank you. For those that are new, just the invitation is, as we pull the cards, whether it's the word, the prompt, the rose, the illustration, a memory, whatever sort of comes to you, is just you're invited to just acknowledge and share it.
You're welcome to share verbally or through the chat. There's multiple ways.
I wanted to say that I can't tell you, Omar, how much I appreciate that you brought in the thorn. harmonious relationship between the delicate rose and the thorn, and thinking about that through the lens of what happened and all the hate crimes and hatred that's out there. You're right, like knowing that humanity is capable of granting grace and working towards peace. It's a hard road, you know, as there's so much work to do. So much.
Denise.
I hadn't gotten to be very still today. And so as we've come here and found this stillness, I just found myself getting really angry, just angry. And ironically, this grace card comes up because I feel zero grace when it's overcome by the anger. To your earlier point, Omar, is that is why we gather, to find the grace and find the gratitude and dispel or calm or assuage the anger, so I don't sit still, get angry, and then go take it out on my family, in my case, you know, or my dog, or because that's where I go. So this card is just doing exactly that, helping me move through and past the anger. I didn't want to give it to Mother Earth. I felt we'd given her enough, and I was having a hard time doing that. So here's this card and this space helping me find that grace. And that's what this circle does. So thank you.
This prompt is so hard for me because it's so abstract. So every time it shows up, I'm like, there's something to be looked at here. I love that there are multiple rose cards in this deck, and the way that this flower has so many petals and it's kind of just looking down. There's something kind of there. It's very humble, and there's also a touch of sadness to it for me. It's not lift going up, you know, it's kind of just looking down. And I've been feeling really heavy today because there's, you know, this feeling of memories of like racism that I like experienced as a child, and like seeing these acts of violence against like people that look like me makes me really, it's like stirred up a lot of like feelings that I had like immigrating to this country, and from such an innocent place of like being a first grader and like feeling unaccepted at school and bullied for how I looked. And yet the conflicting feeling that I have is I also have such gratitude that these issues are being illuminated in a way where like I don't have to be like, but I'm not, you know, I'm not Black, where it's like even worse, you know, like there were times where I kind of hid the feelings of racism or like acknowledgement that they were there in my experience because it wasn't as bad as, you know, other people. And so it's kind of weird to say that I have gratitude for these issues coming more to the surface, because I feel like my personal experience has also been like very quiet, like, let's not talk about this, or it's not as bad as other people. And um maybe that's the grace, is like, can I trust that this is happening right now so that it can be healed, in a so that our world can become more whole? Because without acknowledgement of these pieces, like even for myself, like it can't be healed. um so yeah, that's it's interesting that grace is kind of teaching that to me right now.
Would anybody else like to share on this card, or we can pick another one? Hmm. Yes, Trisha, powerful today. Well, let's pick another one then. Um, Anybody feeling, again, you can drop it in the chat, wave
Stop.
your hand. There we go.
Stop.
All right, Trisha.
Right there.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm.
Gardenia, gentleness. Being kind to yourself and others can be a way to show gratitude. What would it look like to live with more gentleness? Whew. Anything
To,
speak to you on this one, Trisha?
I could think on this for a while. To have grace and gentleness, and be more gentle with myself. And as I am kind to friends and loved ones, to be more kind to myself. That negative, that self-talk that can be a bit nagging. But I am grateful every day from so much, and so many people. And I'm grateful to be here today. It's a very humbling experience today. Thank you.
Well, I'll go. I'm always shocked by these cards. I don't know how many times I do them, what settings I do them in. They just continue to surprise me, and just to get grace and then gentleness, as if to like reaffirm the message of less is more. And I think sometimes, in a moment like this, it's easy to react and to have strong feelings, and yet to react is to just feed into that energy. I've been reading about Gandhi recently, and one of the things that is being talked about is that nonviolence didn't come as a political tactic. Nonviolence came as something that he found within himself. And when he found that gentleness within himself, he was able to kind of bring it out into the world. And so how to just this reminder of be kind. Like what would obviously a little bit more kindness had been shown yesterday, the last 2 days ago. Um, you know, what permission do we need to not judge ourselves, to not be harsh, and yet firm? I think we can be both firm and gentle. I think we can be both kind and courageous. So I think that's what it would look like to live with more gentleness. Is to be willing to love with tenderness in the face of even things that don't look. I was thinking last night, like, it's one thing to love thy neighbor, and now it's a whole nother thing to love thy enemy. And the enemy is definitely making it really hard. But gentleness is that reminder of that. That's where I'm coming from, and that's what I want to see in the world. Thank you.
I'd like to speak on that if possible. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Please.
That's a really tough card right now. One of my favorite poems is "Do Not Go Gentle Into the Good Night" by Dylan Thomas, and my favorite part of it is old age should burn and rave at close of day, rage, rage against the dying of the light. And so for me, what you said, Omar, is also kind of yin yang for that, is that I feel, yes, there can be gentleness, but we also need to rage. And sometimes that can be hard, and it can be a fine line to walk. But I feel that with things going on, sometimes you do need to step up and be kind, but also remember that we can't go back and the fight still needs to go on. And I'm just feeling very heavy today with that. It's been a long year and it's just so heavy for me today. So I just wanted to share that thought in terms of that gentleness card. So thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
I just want to say that I love the smell of gardenia. It is so fragrant, and it reminds me of my grandmother. She had a pretty hard life, and she kind of embodies this flower, just how open and sweet it is. And when I smell this flower, I always think of her. And it's just a good reminder that it's possible, even with all the suffering, that the kindness and the softness can still be, and the beauty can still be present, and to hold all of it, being able to just acknowledge that all of these things exist, and they feel so extreme right now, and just to gently hold them all is kind of what I'm feeling from this card. Is it time for another card? What's everyone feeling? I'm so curious what the
Definitely
combination
curious to
is.
see what the next card will be.
Yeah.
All right, let's go for it. Anybody want to put a number in?
Or just say
Chat or
stop.
say stop? Flag, you tell us. Four, all right. So let's go row 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and what? And 3. All right, we got 4, 3. Here we go.
I think Mother Earth is speaking very loudly today. Or, I mean,
Oh my,
gently.
oh my goodness. From grace,
Trisha's card.
gentleness to healing. The peony. Taking the time to heal yourself is an expression of gratitude for this one wild and precious life you've been given. How can you support your own healing? Definitely Trisha's card. Anybody want to share on this one?
Well, since it's my card, no, but it's just I've been doing a lot of healing, and it shows here that with this flower, the card. I'm just gonna read this to you. Yeah, I've been diving deep back into meditation and gratitude, daily gratitude practice, and although I'm once again battling another health issue, but I still have support of the doctor staff and family, and my healing is yeah, I'll be all right. I'll be all right. I always am. And it takes me into the next step, preparing for a master class. So I had to postpone it. They did it this last weekend, and I had to postpone mine. So I'm doing it in July. So yeah, thank you.
I just love that that this was the third card, like the order that they came. And grace is a really hard card. Like you said, Belinda, it's so abstract, and it's a word that for some of us, it stirs up things, just the word itself, not even what the implications can be of it. So to start with that, and then to go from grace to gentleness, and to have the swing come out with healing, it's like this beautiful trajectory from something intangible but gnawing at us, and really, like, as long as we have that common thread of gratitude for everything, granting grace, being gentle with others and ourselves, perhaps those are the lessons that lead to healing. And it's healing. I know the question in the prompt is, how can you support your own healing? But like we've been saying, it feels like a theme today is really a much bigger healing. And I think that there's just so much that needs to get healed, that's trying. It's almost like that Japanese philosophy of Kaizen. You can't do all the healing at once, but you've got to take that step. And I think having this synergy of the gentleness with the healing allows us to grant grace.
I love Karen, you talked about the Japanese practice. There's when you said it though, another Japanese practice came to me. I'm not going to remember the Japanese word, but it's, in essence, um, apparently there was I don't know, a king in Japan whose favorite teacup broke, and he like sent it to China to see if he could fix it, and they couldn't fix it. And I'm just imagining this teacup getting like shipped back and forth between Japan and China, and then so he had his best artisans sort of say like, how can you fix this teacup? And what they ended up doing was putting the pieces together and sealing them with gold. And by sealing it with gold, the teacup actually became even more valuable than it was originally. And so, this idea that when we're broken and then healed, we can actually be even stronger than we were before. And I think sometimes healing has this sort of connotation of, well, we've been broken, and so we're kind of recovering, and so there's a weakness to it. But I actually love it the other way around, which is that we're actually even stronger than we were before. And that's what happens when you like exercise. You actually are breaking your muscles down, and then they're strengthening back up. And so, in some ways, the only way to become stronger is to kind of go through this brokenness. And I think then the question is how do we celebrate or acknowledge, or what materials are we using to heal ourselves? Right? Are we using gold? Are we using the best that we have to create that wholeness again? And to realize that wholeness is not about going back, but wholeness is about sort of embracing what is and sort of moving forward. And that, and this word for me last year, I tied this string around my wrist, and it's this daily reminder that I want to heal hearts and heal the planet, and that I realize that we can't do one without, again, this isn't a nice to have. I think this is a need to have, and is existential. Anybody else want to share for this card, or Phil? I know, Belinda, I'm going to guess. You want to pull another card?
I'm curious.
You want to quadruple down?
Today might be one of those days,
All
like
right.
4, kind of a even number.
All right. Unless anybody else has one. All right. Let's go for it. I love Belinda's like, put it all on black.
I love that you're reading my mind now, Omar.
We do
Right there,
collaborate a
stop.
bit. All right. Yeah. Indian paintbrush, joy and presence. When you make time for stillness in the moment, what does joy feel like?
Gratitude.
Yeah. I love that. At the beginning of this, I shared that the way that I was going to try to think about the word prayer was through presence. And so the fact that this last card is just saying like joy and presence are part and parcel to each other. And I love the idea of prayer as joy and presence. Um, and you know, and this is like, I don't know how many illustrations you have, Belinda, in this deck with a bird in it,
The
but
hummingbird,
yeah, the
especially.
hummingbird, like I think there's just this beauty of this like opening up. You see the, you know, the hummingbird with its wings just sort of spread out. And so I just, you know, maybe that's what happens. And I just, yeah, I'm vibing on the joy and presence.
I have
Time
to
to,
tell.
sorry, I break in. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Trisha. You go first.
I just wanted to say it's time to murmur as a collective.
Oh. The story I wanted to share about this card in particular, it's the only card that has an animal on it. And Arlene, the artist, when she was drawing this plant, I mean, it's kind of a bittersweet story. She found this hummingbird that had died in her garden and ended up giving this hummingbird this amazing funeral in her garden. She was playing music to it and just really present with the death of this hummingbird and honored it so much. She was like joking that she gave this hummingbird like the best funeral, like better than humans. And in the process of honoring the death of it, this kind of theme emerged. So it's interesting how we kind of are going full circle with holding all of these very different kinds of emotions, and that was kind of the message of the hummingbird as it transitioned out of life, was like, keep remembering to be joyful.
I love that this is our last card and that we get to end on joy, which just embracing that notion and sentiment is such a different place than where we started.
Ryan.
Keep mine short, but I think it's kind of interesting that both cards, the last two cards, asked me to take time for myself, to heal, and also to recognize joy and presence. And for me, that's actually, from the last card, I was thinking it's a challenge for me to take time for myself, because I'm always worried about what I'm not doing and what I have to get done and stuff like that. So taking time for myself is a challenge in itself. And in the last two cards, it's made it really clear that that's something that is precious and, you know, allows you to heal and recognize joy and many other things. So, yeah.
Anybody else like to share as we begin to close this circle? So I just invite you to get comfortable as we just take a few breaths, 3 breaths, to close the circle. For this first breath, I just invite you to just reflect on this last hour that we've had together, and just as we moved from grace to gentleness to healing to joy and presence, just what emotions and feelings and memories came up for you. And then this next breath, what are you feeling in this moment? Here, right now. And then this last breath, what do you want to take with you? And how will you honor that each day for the next 7 days? Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you co-creating this space with us. Just some gratitude circle news. Tomorrow is our big healing for the healers launch. We're sending 11 DJs to 11 hospitals throughout greater Southern California. And then I believe up to 50 plus hospitals will be receiving our gratitude self-care packages, which is access to the app, access to Belinda's monthly toolkit, and then a special series of gratitude circles just for healthcare workers. And so it's exciting to really see this grow. And, you know, a lot of people kind of made this happen, I think, in less than 6 weeks. Like from just somebody being like, hey, we want to do something for healthcare workers, to now being able to share to, over 50 hospitals. And I mean, I think that's like tens of thousands of healthcare workers. So that's why I also love that the last card was healing, because that's the campaign that Belinda and I are calling it, is healing for the healers. And so if anybody knows any healthcare workers, I just put in the chat a link that you can share with them, and they can, receive it also. They don't have to be here in Southern California. Yeah, like as I also shared in the email, we had over, Belinda and I did an abbreviated gratitude circle to over 100 plus people on
Like 10
Saturday.
minutes.
But we had, Senator Alex Padilla and Congressmember Karen Bass and, heads of philanthropy. And so it's just continuing to see folks come out. And then, our very own Brian Vasquez on the Wheels of Steel, or whatever we call these things nowadays, has been hosting his Coffee and Gratitude on Clubhouse. And so we're looking at creating, he's now hosted enough that he can actually create a gratitude circle club. And so we're going to be, we're exploring maybe programming it like you would like a radio station, and just inviting different people to join different parts of, Brian always wanted to be in a club. Now you get to be,
The
you
head
get
of
to
the
open
club.
the club, bro. And then Belinda and I are now also working with a couple of folks, to create a facilitator's toolkit. So that's like the next thing on our horizon, as we also move towards actually doing like an extended workshop to sort of help people kind of get a deeper dive into hosting these themselves.
And shout out to Karen for helping us kind of formulate the next direction of it too. Thank you, Karen, for your support on that.
Yeah, we got some great notes from Denise too. So thank you.
It's so exciting. I was so happy to drop into Brian and Nicole's coffee and gratitude room. It's great.
Yeah, we got to, it was like we got to both drop in. At least I dropped in, I think, on the one that you were on as well. So that was pretty cool. And by the way, like if you have to jump the sort of official gratitude circle is over, and this is just gratitude circle news. It's a new segment.
I'm really, really excited for what you guys are doing with the healthcare workers and spreading this garden of beauty.
It'll be exciting to
I'm
see,
excited.
yeah, what emerges out of it. Because it's just, I don't know, to me, like if you can work with frontline workers and create space for healing and wholeness and integration, like, gosh, anybody, I feel like, can then do it.
Good.
Thank you all so much for showing up every many weeks with us. And yeah, I hope to see you next Thursday.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey.
Bye now.
Take care.
Bye.